It's time to get inside the Giants Huddle.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
On Giants.com.
I like it, I like it.
And the Giants mobile app.
Boom, give me some juice.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's roll.
Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. Happy to bring in a very old friend, Jerry Recco. We've known each other for more than 20 years now, Jerry, from when both of us were at the Fan back in the day. You can find him on the Boomer and Geo show. He also does pre and post for the Dallas Cowboys on Compass. And he's also going to be doing play-by-play this week on Compass for the Giants-Eagles game nationally on the radio. So if you're not in the tri-state area, in one of the cities where the Giants have a radio affiliate, you can hear him doing the game with Boomer Esiason, Phil Simms in the booth, and you're going to have Greg Giannotti on the sideline, bringing that Boomer and Geo crew, doing a live football game, Jerry. Sounds like that's going to be a lot of fun, man.
It will be. It'll be different, too. I actually did Eagles-Giants last year for Compass Media Network, so that was an interesting experience at the link, as you can imagine. But this is different because this is MetLife Stadium, Giants, Eagles, and, you know, as you mentioned, the Boomer and Geo show. But, you know, Phil Simms in the booth is pretty darn cool, too. So it should be a lot of fun.
Now, I don't envy you. I know Phil very well, and we all know Phil likes to talk. Boomer is no stranger to talking either, and they've had to spar before on the CBS pre- and post-game shows on TV. So are you bringing security in to try to control them from going at it after these plays to see who can get their point in?
I think I'll stand in between the two of them, but they'll be fine.
Risky.
They do like to talk. And so I figure just get the call in and get out of the way and let them do their thing. And then, of course, we've got to bring in Geo from time to time. So it's going to be, I would think, a fast-moving, quick 3 hours for sure.
Have you guys had like a production meeting yet, or no?
No. To be honest with you, though, John, there's no production meeting to be had. I
know.
I think I've done 12 games for Compass Media Networks, as well as being on the pre and post for the Cowboys for the last 14 years, which I can't believe I'm saying that, but I've heard this broadcast. I've done this broadcast, and it really is the way Michelle Salvatore put it together years ago. It's so self-contained. The producer plays a big role, and it's, if you've ever done a game, Phil and Boomer have done 1, 2, or 100.
Yeah.
There's really no need. We know what we're doing, so it'll be good.
Now, are you going to try to get something a little bit different out of Gio from the sideline, or is he going to be like, I'm regular sideline reporter Greg Giannotti guy?
I don't know. So Gio knows, and he has told this story before. Gio knows the equipment manager for the Eagles, so he's going to have a couple of interesting stories, I think, just from talking to him, and then he'll be Gio. So I think, you know, he'll wrap all of it into one, and it should be a blast.
And for people that don't know, Gio actually did sideline for the Pittsburgh Panthers in Pittsburgh too, so he has some sideline experience too. I talked to him a lot about that over the course of the year. So, all right, so let's talk about this game, Jerry. What are the major storylines that you're kind of keeping your eye on as you head to kickoff on Sunday?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, yes, Boomer, thank you. First and foremost,
Hi,
he's
Boomer.
keeping his. Well, I mean, the obvious one is Saquon Barkley coming back to MetLife Stadium. You'd have to be an idiot not to acknowledge that one. Another one is, and I can't believe this is a talking point again because it wasn't this season, the Giants offensive line. When you lose, as you know, John, you know, when you lose an offensive lineman, the caliber of Andrew Thomas, you don't replace him. I mean, yes, someone's going to play his spot, but they're simply not going to be as good as he is. I don't care who it is. So those are the top two for me. Then there's the overall landscape of the NFC East and what I thought it would be and what it is. The fact that the Washington Commanders are in first place, and not only that, playing really good football is mind-blowing to me in Dan Quinn's first year, Jaden Daniels' first year. The fact that the Eagles aren't as good as I thought, they're good, but I thought they'd be dominant is surprising to me. The fact that the Cowboys have been god-awful at home is surprising to me. And the Giants, I thought, they're kind of where I thought they'd be, but I thought they'd be a little better, if that makes any sense. They're 2-4. They should be 3-3 at minimum. So like all of that, I think there's a lot to talk about in this game. And then, of course, the injuries with Malik Nabers and, you know, hoping that he's, of course, on the field on Sunday. So there's a lot in this game.
Well, Jerry, it's funny. I have a list of topics I want to hit with you. You literally touched on every single one of them. So we're exactly on the same page here. First things first on Andrew Thomas, because I think it is interesting. Last year when he got hurt, the season literally got obliterated. He hurts his hamstring in the first play, the first field goal attempt against Dallas. He gets hurt and everything falls apart. I think because they have a much more veteran group this year, they should be able to survive it a little better. But again, the impact you're going to have here, you don't just plug a guy in from Andrew Thomas and do what you do. You're going to have to chip over there. We don't know exactly how they're going to organize the line. You just hope, and I think that they should be able to handle it a little bit better because of the infrastructure and the coaching they have at that position this year.
And I do think you're right. As a whole, we saw the moves they made, and you do have good players up front now, which I don't know you would have said in the past that you had 4 or 5 solid players on the line. Runyon, Illuminor, just mentioning a couple of guys that know what they're doing and are, I guess, savvy veterans at this point. You're right. They should provide some stability. That having been said, I also see when the quarterback's blind side is not protected. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has almost gotten killed on the field this year. I would say 4 or 5 times. And on every occasion, it has been from that left side where his guy has gotten beat. And it's a problem. And then you're dealing with a quarterback who has not been able to stay healthy. That has got to, I got to believe that's got to creep into his mind just a little bit that he's not there. So I do agree with you. They're more equipped to handle it this time. And I hope they are, because I am tired of having pointless football in November in this city. And if the Giants could just remain relevant and win a couple of if they ever won Sunday and beat the Eagles, a team that they have so much trouble beating, all of a sudden you look up and you say, all right, they're 3-4. They should have won the game. I mean, let's be honest. They have a kicker. They should have won the game last week. There were games earlier in the season they should have won, but didn't. If they got to 3-4, you get past this injury. At least you think you're equipped to handle it a little bit better. And then Singletary comes back, and now Tracy's been really good, and Nabers is back. They should have won the game in Washington, for God's sakes. So I think this Sunday's game, to me, is critical for this team going forward.
No, look, absolutely. And look, I think that's the frustrating thing about the Giants. They're clearly a better team, but they've lost games that they've been in at the end because of, whether it's special teams, drop passes, go through the reasons. There's been way too many of them. And it's funny, you mentioned Daniel Jones, and I think that's my worry with the loss of Andrew Thomas, because I think we've seen him be able to play, last week aside, so much better this year because he feels confident, he's protected, he's navigating the pocket better, he's getting the ball out quick because he's not worried about getting murdered. If he loses that confidence, does that have an effect on his play where he looks more like the player from last year than he's looked like the player so far this year?
Well, I mean, I'll put myself in his shoes. I'd be jumpy. I mean, if that rock is gone, like I said, I think it has to creep into your mind. I have been one of the, I would say, in the minority of Daniel Jones supporters. I think physically his tools are outstanding. I like that he runs the ball. I didn't realize how big he was until I saw him on the field a couple of years ago for the first time and seeing him out at training camp. He's an impressive figure. I hate the fact that when we talk about quarterbacks that throw touchdown passes, the fact that he can run in 7 or 8 of them gets completely dismissed, because that to me is part of his whole makeup. I think he's got the tools to be a good quarterback, but the one thing that people will always throw in my face, and I have no defense for it, is they don't score enough points and they don't score at home. At some point, it's kind of poop or get off the pot. And like I said, that's why I think Sunday's really big.
Yeah, look, they're averaging 16 points a game this year. That's not enough. You score 7 points against the bad Bengals defense last week. It's not enough. I mean, you just aren't going to win games doing that way. 100%, I'm with you. On the other side, Jalen Hurts, I feel like he peaked 2 years ago, right? And I feel like since then, it's kind of been like the opposite of the Price is Right guy going up the mountain. It's been Jalen Hurts going down the mountain, right? And I'm not quite sure why. They bring in Kellen Moore to make the offense look different, yet the offense kind of still looks the same. What's your take on kind of where Jalen Hurts is now that he has his full bevy of weapons around him with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and obviously Saquon?
Yeah, I mean, just think about what you just said. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Saquon Barkley.
I mean, good.
How good is that? And you're right. He had a meteoric rise. There's no question. I don't know that he is on the down as much as he is completely leveled out. I think that's really fair to say. They are a team, like I said, I really did. I thought it would be between them and the Cowboys in the NFC East, and I thought the Eagles would win the division. There are times I look at this team and I feel like they should just go out and pummel the opposition. And then you're sitting there and you're looking at a close game in the fourth quarter, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You read the notes and the stats on this team, Nick Sirianni, what his record is. It sounds great, but then you see the stuff that's gone on. off the field, in the stands, some of the press conferences he has had, and some of the answers he gives are bizarre. They are a team that when you looked at them last year, 10-1 they started? Does that sound correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then they limped down the stretch and ultimately gave the division to the Cowboys by not being able to win a game, essentially, aside from beating Dallas in a very close game in November. They're a team that I look at personnel-wise, and I just think they should be better than they are. I don't know if that's the quarterback. I don't know if that's the coach. I don't know. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know. But what I do know is when I look around the NFL and I look at personnel, and I mean the splash players, maybe not the whole 52, which is obviously probably most important. But when I looked at those skill receivers and the running back, they should be better. And I know Goddard's banged up and he's a big weapon and it's more Calcaterra now, but I just think they should be better than they are. So I agree with you. He is definitely leveled off, but the ability is there because we've seen it.
Yeah, I think it's almost part of it with the Eagles, Jerry, is almost a small deterioration up front. They're just not as dominant on the defensive and offensive lines anymore. And I think that probably low key might have something to do with it.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we talk so much in the NFL about winning the game in the trenches. And how did we talk about the Giants to start? We're talking about Andrew Thomas and can they protect Daniel Jones? You are right. I mean, it also is one of those things that drives me crazy as a sports fan or a football fan, that the quarterback winds up with so much of the money and the wide receivers now are getting paid so much money. And yet the guys that take the beating the most, the running backs and the guys on specifically the interior line guys, they get paid okay. I'm not saying they don't, but they don't make the money these other guys make. And really, without them, the other guys are nothing.
No question. How do you think the crowd's going to react to Saquon Barkley?
I think he's going to get cheered. I think there'll be a smattering. I think it'll be a mix. I think it'll be more cheers, though, than boos, quite frankly. I mean, when I look at, Barkley made it clear for a full year. He wanted to be a Giant. I think if you watched Hard Knocks, you saw the hesitation the Giants had with him, the back and forth with the agent. So I think Giant fans I think they saw both sides to it. I don't think there's anything really to get angry with. You want to say, already went to the Eagles. Okay. I don't know how many offers he had out there, but I think it'll be a good mix of boos and cheers. And I don't think either one will drown out the other.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens. So go to that retreat. New you moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Giants Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. And Jerry, honestly, I think this is one of those things that it might work out for both teams, right? The Eagles get the more dynamic individual back who they could put behind a better offensive line, and he's been effective. The Giants saved some money, and if you look at the overall production, combined Singletary and Tracy this year, it's not all that different than what Saquon Barkley was giving them last couple of years when they haven't been able to win games with him consistently. So I honestly think in this situation, the move made sense for Saquon. Running backs, you have to get paid when you can in this world. The money runs out real quick. And if you're the Giants, it might not have made sense to spend big on a running back with where they were in their development. So I think this was just like, all right, this makes sense for you. This makes sense from us. And let's go about our business.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the Giants, I said this all summer doing a lot of fill-in hosting on the radio station for Boomer and Geo. I really do believe, and I have for a little while now, that, the combination of Shane and Dable has provided and is bringing, I believe, a lot of stability to this franchise. And I know wins and losses, it doesn't look great yet. I'm well aware. But I do think in watching Hard Knocks, you got a really good inside look at the way they work together. The way they look at the value and the positions and how to put a team together. I feel like, I know it's hard to ask Giant fans for patience because it's been rough, and I know that. But I really do believe they're on the right track with these two, and ultimately they will figure it out. And when they do, I think they'll be good for a long time. And yes, for the Eagles, I think it's too soon to say it's worked out. I know Saquon's had a great, really good first 6 games. I understand that, or however many it is, but if they don't win, though, while he may be very good, I think ultimately for the Eagles, he was supposed to be the missing piece to a championship. So time will tell on that.
No, I agree with you. What do you think the impact of Malik Nabers coming back will be? 2 weeks ago, the Giants did a great job surviving with Adam. I do think you really felt his absence against the Bengals last week. How big will his return be for this offense?
I think it's huge because you don't have to be a genius to see the attention that he garners, the catches he makes, the plays, his run after the catch ability, everything. It also frees up other guys on the field. I don't know how it wouldn't have an impact. You got the sense, after that first week when I don't think he got enough targets, and then you saw he was targeted, 14, 15 times in the game, something like that. That game in Washington, to me, I forget the drop at the end, was eye-opening because I thought the way him and Daniel Jones in such a short period, you're talking about a guy that was drafted in, the spring of this year. That game specifically, they look like they've been playing together for years and years and years. And even the Cowboy game, he didn't have a great game, but a pretty good game before he went down with that injury. And I know they have not been the same offense since he's been off the field. So obviously, Malik Nabers makes a big, big difference. The one thing, too, if you're the Giants, he allows you, to me, it opens up the run game, too. If you've got him on the field, it's the whole package of what they are offensively changes when you've got a dynamic number one playmaking receiver like that.
Jump defensively for the Giants, Jerry. I mean, I think this is exactly what Joe Shane pictured in his mind when he traded all that for Brian Burns, then paid him all that money, put him with Dexter Lawrence. Kayvon Thibodeau's out, as Ojulari did great last week. I mean, 26 sacks to lead the league when you're not playing from ahead in a lot of these games. A lot of teams stack sacks when they have, 2-score leads in the second half, things like that. I mean, you can't ask for more than what you've gotten out of this pass rush. And I think that's going to be key here because I think when you pressure Hurts, that's when he has some issues.
Yeah, so I want to pull something up real quick because all summer, I was on this Giants defense. Like I thought they would be a dominant force. I thought they would be a defense that is going to get after the quarterback. And because they would be able to do that, that they would win a lot of games, even if the offense wasn't good. So I wanted to pull up the final score in the box. So that's how I went into the season. I'm like, and I'll be honest with you, John, when they gave Burns the extension, I looked at his numbers and I said, this is what gets you whatever he got, $20-something million a year. I was blown away by the contract. And then everyone would say, well, where he was playing and double teams, I'm like, okay, fine. Then comes the opener against the Vikings. And I came in here the next day. I want to pull up the box score if I have it, because they were bad.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad.
Nothing defensively. And Sam Darnold had all day to throw. And I thought, you want to talk about air out of the balloon. I was like, what a waste. But then all of a sudden against Washington, they got after it. And then they got after it some more. And now, and it really does suck that Thibodeau is injured. But even with him injured, you see Lawrence all over the field. You see Burns harassing quarterbacks. Okereke has been really good. Like, this is the defense I envisioned. And, being able to wreck a game, it's kind of like what the Broncos did to the Jets. I think this is what the Giants defense has the capability of doing now to every quarterback they see. And when Thibodeau comes back, they're that much better. So I was wrong early, and now it looks like exactly what I envisioned.
And the front's allowing the back end to survive, right? Where they're really young. They got a bunch of young guys. But last week, look, Higgins and Jamar Chase combined for like 14 catches and 170 yards. But they didn't have that one game-breaking play, aside from that one Jamar Chase contested catch down the left side of the field, where they really destroyed the game. And I think that's what you got to do this week, right? Brown and Smith are going to get their catches. Just don't let them get the 55-yard touchdown catch. That's going to blow the game open.
Yes, and the one catch you just alluded to with Jamar Chase, he was well covered.
He was.
And that throw was just in the perfect spot. He makes a great catch, and the game-breaking play was by the quarterback, who runs for 50 yards as they're trying to cover on the back end. The fact that I know Jamar Chase's numbers look good that night, but I agree with you. They did a really good job of containing him and not letting him win the game. Again, the Giants they had 2 field goals to take the lead, for God's sakes, in the late in the third and in the fourth. And who knows what happens if one of those kicks go in. They should have won. They played good enough to win that game. But again, you got to win in this league. You can't say should have, could have. They didn't.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation for each scoring drive during the 2024 season. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. All right, Jerry, real quick, let's go around the division a little bit. You're very close to the Cowboys. You look at their record, you're like, all right, it's fine. Then you look at how they lost the 3 games they lost, and you're like, That's not fine. Where are the Dallas Cowboys right now?
Purgatory. That's where they are, because it's everything you just said. Stats can lie, records can lie. They're 3-3, and there's no doubt when you win 3 road games, it's impressive. There's, if you've played 3 road games and you're 3-0 on the road, that's great. The problem with that is what I look at now is a Cleveland team that's not very good. And week 1, we didn't know that. Week 1, I thought if you go into Cleveland, you win. Hell of a job. Well,
yeah.
Cleveland kind of isn't good. The Giants, the Cowboys have owned the rivalry. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but they've owned it. All right, fine. They win that game. And then you look at the one in Pittsburgh, good win, last-minute drive. That's great. I don't think the Steelers are that good. So you take those 3 aside, and now you look at what they've done at home, where they were dominant at home until the Packer postseason game last year, where they got run out of their own building. So what happens this year? They get run out of their own building by the Saints, who are good. They got skill players. The Saints have done nothing since that game. So that's embarrassing. You'll see the Ravens. Scores can lie. 28-25. Sorry, not that close. They got run out of their building in that game too. And this last one, John, I don't know what the hell I was watching and broadcasting that game. And I think the Lions could have scored in the 50s. They didn't punt once, and they had to settle for field goals 5 times or 4, whatever it was. They scored all 9 times, and they roll up 47 on the Cowboys, to where they're running trick plays with their offensive tackles to embarrass the hell out of them, and I don't blame them. So where are they? They're nowhere right now. And now the owner is yelling at I love the guy, but he's yelling at the guys in Dallas who he's talked to every week, every year for a decade. I don't know what's going on with that team.
I feel like they're just like right now there's too much on their stars, right? I feel like Dak has to be perfect for them to have any chance. CeeDee Lamb has to, go for 170 for them to have any chance. And, on defense, they're missing so many guys. All their stars are hurt. It just seems like right now the roster has been, spread so thin that if Dak's not carrying them, they can't do anything.
Yeah, no, it's been it's a mess all around. And you're right, they're injured, and you get Trayvon Diggs back, then Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence get injured. You think Kalen Carson's coming back, you find out, hey, he's not quite ready. They're just not good. Eric Kendricks was playing really well in the beginning. Now he's been out. It's been a mess. And you got to question the coaching staff too. I'll come back to, you watched that game against Green Bay in the playoffs. They weren't ready to play that game. And I like Mike McCarthy. I don't like firing coaches. I really don't. I like stability. But I do question their preparation, because it looks like they're just outclassed and outcoached, specifically, actually, in these home games.
All right, Jerry, I know you got to go. Final question. I'm going to take the L on the Commanders. I thought they were the worst team in the division heading into the season. I thought their offensive line wouldn't give Jaden Daniels a chance to succeed. Their defense has struggled. I thought it would. But what they've done there, and look, we'll see if they can sustain it. I mean, tip your cap, man. What a great job. And that quarterback's going to be a problem in the division for a long time.
I'll tell you this. The most impressive game I saw from them this year, and it was the loss to the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree.
I know they were down 10 in the fourth quarter to them, but that game was closer and close throughout. And Daniels just, man, he looks the part. And I know we've had quarterbacks that have had big first seasons, then regress a little bit, and maybe that'll happen with him too. But they look like a well-coached team. It looks like the stink of Daniel Snyder is completely off that franchise. If you're an NFC East fan for the Eagles, Giants, or Cowboys, I'd be concerned that this Commanders team is for real, because right now I've got no indication to think that they're not.
All right, finally, Joey, one key to the game, Giants and Eagles, that you think could determine the winner.
That's a good question, because I think obviously we're talking from a Giants standpoint. It's an obvious one. You can't settle for 3. You got to put the ball in the end zone. I could sit here and say run the ball, control the clock. The problem with that is the Eagles have the ability to score very quickly. I think it's a matter of putting the ball in the end zone and actually putting some pressure on Philly to kind of respond with touchdowns and not kick. The field goal is a great thing, man. You put points on the board and all that. But at the same time, it's also a detriment, because it's deflated. Like, the Giants have been so good between the 20s. And then if you're in that building and they're constantly settling for the Cowboys, every first drive is a beautiful drive, except for one thing. It ends with a Brandon Aubrey field goal. They're just, it's positive, but they're killers at the same time. So score touchdowns. That would be my biggest key.
Giants have played 12 quarters at home this year, Jerry. They've scored 1 touchdown.
That's probably Yeah.
That's a problem. Absolutely. Good stuff, Jerry. I'll see you on Sunday. Enjoy the game, dude.
You got it, John. Thanks.
Jerry Recco joining us in the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. We'll see you next time, everybody.